and you are reading as well. So today I will be conducting class on the practical part of the nerve muscle physiology. In that we will be seeing about the amphibian graphs. So this part of the practical is for 5 marks. So each student will be getting one amphibian graph. Either it is from the nerve muscle physiology or cardiac muscle, and it is a part of human practical. It is the practical aspect. So there are about 8 amphibian graphs from the nerve muscle physiology. So today I will be talking on 4 graphs, and these are definitively coming for the practical examinations. So this is the first graph, that is known as simple muscle curve, or it is also called as simple muscle twitch. Okay. So these graphs are obtained on the amphibian, that is frog. In the frog, after the proper dissection, the how it is derived, I will tell in brief. So after the proper dissection of the frog, the gastrocnemius muscle along with the sciatic nerve is separated, and all the practicals, all the these experiments are performed on that muscle nerve component. Okay. So which muscle is taken out? The gastrocnemius muscle along with the intact sciatic nerve. So this is comprising the motor nerve unit. Okay. So with the help of these two components, the all the these properties are recorded with the help of student physiograph. The physiograph is consisting of the rotating kymograph. This rotating kymograph is coated with the white paper, and it has a proper instrumental arrangement on which the lever is mounted. With the help of that lever, the graph will be written on that white paper. So everything is available in our amphibian laboratory. Once you come back, I will show you how this instrument will work. Okay. So with the help of this, and what is required is, here is electric supply is required. Why it is so? Because we have to stimulate the nerve which is going to cause the effect on the muscle. So it is required the electrical supply also. So coming to the very basic property or very basic this curve, that is a simple muscle curve, or it is also called as simple muscle twitch. This simple muscle curve, it is having very important components. So here this graph, how to read, I will tell you. Here some points have written like A, B, C and D. So each point is having its own significance. So point A is denoting point of stimulus, that is written as a PS. The point A is denoted as a point of stimulus where the electrical supply, like electrical stimulus, is given at this point. That's why it is written as a point of stimulus. So you are very well aware that any muscle, it has to be activated, or it is going to be activated unless and until you are not giving the threshold stimulus. So always remember that the threshold stimulus is must. Threshold, supra-threshold, supramaximal threshold, these are the different characters of the stimulus. But you are giving, suppose you are giving less than the threshold stimulus, the muscle will not be activated. We will not get any curve or twitch. So the first and very important point is that whenever you are stimulating any nerve with the muscle, the stimulus should be threshold, up to the threshold strength. Okay, so you are very clear with this point. The point A is showing the point of stimulation. You are supplying the electrical stimulus. Now with the little gap, the another point is, that is the point B. So the distance between this A and B is called the latent period. The A-B point altogether is forming a latent period. The latent period is nothing but an inactive phase. You can call it as an inactive phase, or it is also called as a preparatory phase. Means what? Whenever you are supplying the threshold stimulus to a component, the stimulus will function and it will take some some time. That time is called as latent period. So the muscle itself, or along with this nerve, is preparing to get the stimulus. From this point B, you can see the upstroke. That upstroke is called the contraction period, and from this midpoint you can see the C point. So this, from point B to point C, it is a contraction period, and once the contraction or this curve reaches to its maximum, from there it will start as a relaxation period. So downstroke, it is indicating relaxation period. So from point C to point D, this entire part is called as relaxation period. So you have come across the upstroke and the downstroke. This upstroke and downstroke, it is all together is forming a curve. So half of this curve is a contraction and the later part of this is called relaxation period. After that, the curve is not stopping drastic. Okay, it is still, it is having some few upstroke and downstroke. This part is called as physiological curve. So this is denoted by the point E, that is called as it is called as physiological curve, or it is also called as shatter waves. Okay, so I will tell you later why this physiological curve is happening. Okay, so now how to read this curve, you know. It is starting from the point A, that is denoted by a point of stimulus where you are giving the threshold stimuli. Later, it has a latent period where the muscle itself is preparing to get activated and to form as a curve. So this curve is taking contraction from the point B, and it is causing an upstroke till the mid of this, that is denoted by the point C. So this entire phase is contraction period. Later it is converted into the relaxation period. After that, the curve is having some minor waves like structure, that is called as physiological curve. So this is how the simple muscle curve or simple muscle twitch is read. So here these curves, so how you will apply this simple muscle curve to our human body, or what is the benefits of this simple muscle curve to the human physiology. So with the help of this simple muscle curve, you can learn there are many muscle properties. For example, you can learn on the basis of this phenomenon, you can learn the property of excitability, the property of contractility, and the property of tonicity and elasticity. So the physiological significance of this curve is you can assess our physiological muscle phenomenon like excitability, contractility, tonicity and elasticity. So this is about the simple muscle curve. So we will discuss some point like what is the duration of this. So whenever you are taking any standard simple muscle twitch, it is measured with the help of millimeter scale. So the each wavelength, can you see the downwards, it is having one wave like structure. So each wave, it corresponds to the 0.01 second. Are you getting this point? This wave or this curve, it is corresponding, this wavelength is corresponding to the 0.01 second. so that you can measure. So how much is the latent period here? You count from A to from B, it is having almost the 2 waves. Okay, so what will be the latent period? 0.02, like that you can measure. But here you can take the intact one curve. Suppose if we go more precise from A to A, only this curve is there. So here one can say that the latent period in this curve, it can be a 0.01 second. That could be a normal one. Next, what will be the contraction period? So count here. How many curves are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I am taking the almost the intact waves. Okay, I am not taking the half of anything. So I am getting here almost 5 intact wavelength. So what could be the contraction period? It can be a 0.05. Okay, so normal contraction period for any simple muscle twitch, it may ranges from 0.04 to 0.05 seconds. Later, if you count the relaxation period, count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I am getting the 6 wavelengths, 6 curves from the point C to the D. So the relaxation period is almost 0.0 seconds. Now you can compare. You can compare like that. So relax any muscle to get relaxed, it is taking more time than the contraction. It is taking more time than the contraction. So like this you have to defend this graph whenever it is asked. Okay, so contraction period is lesser than the relaxation period, and the normal duration for the latent period for any standard simple muscle twitch is 0.01 second. So we are talking more about the latent period. So what could be the reason for the latent period? What is the reason? So there are varieties of reason. So very first important reason is that whenever we are applying any threshold stimulus, so it will take a time to conduct the impulse from the nerve to the muscle. So it is the time taken by the nerve to conduct its impulse from nerve to the muscle. So that could be the one reason. Next is once the impulse is started, once the action potential is started in the nerve, so it has to cross through the neuromuscle transmission. So that is the another point why this latent period is happening, why this gap is happening afterwards. Once the action potential reaches to the neuromuscular junction, there should be the excitation contraction coupling. Okay, there should be that mechanism has to happen. What is that mechanism? Excitation contraction coupling. After that, once this is formed, it has to stretch the elastic elements which are present in a muscle, especially in a tendons. So that is the one more reason why this latent period is happening. Okay, and apart from all the things, the another important thing is the inertia which is there on a lever writing. Okay, so the lever means the point which is writing over the paper, that is having its own inertia. So that is also causing some duration from happening from point A to point B. So these are the different causes which may have caused to happen a latent period. So have you understood? One is conduction of the impulses from nerve to muscle. Second one is neuromuscular transmission. Third one is excitation contraction coupling. Fourth one is the stretching of the elements like elastic elements which are present in the tendons, and the inertia of the recording lever. So these are the some important reasons. And now come to the point, what is the physiological curve? How much is its normal duration? So this physiological curve, it is obtained after the simple muscle curve. It is due to the inertia of the lever. Why it is happening? Because the drum is rotating drum. It is having its own speed, and with the help of this own speed, the lever is also having it is writing with its inertia. So whenever the drum is rotating, it is also having some momentum. Because of that, the curve is not stopping at the point D, it will be writing further. So this is called the physiological curve, and it is due to the inertia of the lever, and its normal duration is 10 milliseconds. Its normal duration is 10 milliseconds. So I told that with the help of this muscle curve, we can understand easily the properties of muscle like excitability, contractility, tonicity and elasticity. In the contractility, you can also learn about what is the isotonic contraction, what is the isometric contraction. So you should know what is the difference. So these questions will be asked to you. What are the differences between isotonic contraction and isometric contraction? So you know what is the word meaning of isotonic? Wherever the tone of the muscle is remaining similar, that type of contraction is called isotonic contraction. But here the muscle length will be changing. Rather, it is decreasing. Okay, the muscle shortens, but the tone will be remaining same. And what about the isometric? The tone will be changing, but the length of the muscle is remaining same within physiological limit. So this is the difference between isotonic and isometric contraction. In the isotonic contraction, no doubt work is happening there because of the changing of the muscle length. But in the isometric contraction, there will be no external work is done. So this is about the types of contraction of the muscle. So I hope you have understood the simple muscle twitch. Now we will move further for the another graph, that is the effect of temperature on skeletal muscle contraction. So how to read this graph and how to perform this practical. So here it requires the same setup what we have done for the simple muscle twitch. There we require the gastrocnemius muscle with intact sciatic nerve, with the student kymograph, rotating drum, with the electric supply, and along with that the important factor is the ringer solution of different temperature. The ringer solution of the different solution. Ringer solution is nothing but it is the solution which is used to keep the normal nutrition for the gastrocnemius muscle which is removed from the frog. Okay, if we dip that component, muscle and nerve component, in the ringer solution, it will give the nutrition and energy to the muscle if we keep away from the body, and we can sustain it for a short for a certain time period. Okay, so that we can do such experiments. So the ringer solution is nothing but the solution which is having different electrolytes and minerals to keep that muscle and nerve component active. So here the ringer solution is taken of different temperature. So we will be seeing the effect of temperature on the skeletal muscle contraction. So we are taking three ranges of the ringer solution of different temperature. For cold, we are taking almost 10 degrees Celsius, 10 to 16 degree we can take. Normal, the normal room temperature. Okay, you can take 26 to 30 degrees Celsius ringer solution temperature. And for the heat or the hot, we can take the ringer solution up to the 40 degree. Okay, so this is the range from 10 to 40, but we cannot go beyond 40 degrees Celsius. If we increase the temperature of the ringer solution and if we put on the muscle, so what could happen? Because of the high degree temperature, whatever the muscle proteins are there, they get denaturated. Okay, they get agglutinated. Because of that, we are not taking the high temperature beyond the 40 degree. So 40 or 42 is the limit. So here again there is a must, that is the point A, that is nothing but a point of stimulus. You are giving the threshold stimulus, but here after the latent period, we can see points like B2, B1 and B3. Okay, so B1 is nothing but a normal curve. Can you read? Try to read this. B1, it is the normal curve, means the Ringer solution with normal temperature. Later B2, B2 is the high temperature curve, and the third one is the cold temperature curve. So here you may have a question that why we have taken the high temperature first and later the cold temperature. Because if we use the cold temperature first, it will inactivate all the muscle proteins and the substances which are required for a muscle contraction. So because of this inactivation, we cannot perform the further component. So that we are using first the normal curve with normal Ringer solution with temperature. After that, the curve which is derived with the high temperature Ringer solution, and the last one is the Ringer solution with the cold temperature. So meanwhile, we are getting the three different latent periods like A to B2, from A to B1, from A to B3. So three different latent periods we are getting. We are stimulating the same nerve muscle component for 3 times with 3 different temperatures. So this is the component. Now you concentrate on the peaks. Okay, the curve of this.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Could you please repeat why we need to use the higher temperature solution before the cold one?
Yeah. See, whenever you are using the cold first, the cold temperature will inactivate. It will inactivate the muscle fibers. It will inactivate the proteins which are present in that, so that we will not do this further for the another temperature. So we are using this first, the temperature, and later the cold temperature. High temperature we are doing first, later the cold temperature. Are you getting my point?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Now concentrate over here. We are getting the three curves with different levels, like heights of the curves are different, the amplitude of the curves are different. When we use the high temperature, the curve is the highest one, it is the upmost curve. For the normal it is bit lower, and the cold one it is the shorter curve compared to the other two. The cold temperature is having the shorter curve compared to the other two. So what could be the reason? Anyone wants to tell? So cold Ringer solution, it increases the duration of all the phases of muscle contraction and decreases the height of contraction, whereas the warm Ringer solution, it will show the opposite effect. It will increases the height of contraction. Okay, so this is the reason why the the cold Ringer solution is having the shorter height. I will repeat it again. The cold Ringer solution, it will increase the duration of all the muscle contraction and decreases the height of contraction. See here, from point B3 to D3, so contraction phase is compared to the other is increased. Okay. And this cold Ringer solution decreases the temperature of the muscle. Hence, it will increase the viscosity and retarding the metabolic processes. So it will hamper some metabolic processes and it will increase the viscosity. That's why muscle takes the maximum time to contract and relax. Whereas warm ringer solution, it raises the temperature of the muscle and it reduces the viscosity and it will minimize the synaptic delay. So the action which is happening here, it is a quick action. That's why it takes the shorter time compared to the cold one. So how you will apply this property to the human body? What could be the effect of temperature on human body? So another question is it is there in a discussion. Why are the human muscles just as active in winters as in summer? So the reason is written here. This is because the man is homeothermic. He can maintain the internal body temperature within a narrow range in spite of a wide variation in a temperature, environmental temperature. This is the reason why the human body is maintaining its muscle properties during summer season and the winter season uniformly. Okay. And another discussion is what could be the physiological significance of this experiment. So the answer for this is efficacy of skeletal muscle contraction increases with its increase in a surrounding temperature within the physiological limits. So this is very useful during the exercise. So you can apply this practical to the physiological. It can be a physiological significance of this practical. And one more important aspect of this practical is what is heat rigor. It is a likely question asked during the Viva OS. What is the heat rigor? When the temperature of the ringer solution it exceeds more than the 40 degrees Celsius, say up to 45 degrees Celsius, the muscle proteins get denaturated. And here, because of this high grade temperature, the actin and myosin filaments, they are unable to carry out their functions. So hence the muscle remains in a state of permanent contraction, and this property of muscle is called heat rigor. Rigor is nothing but the sustained contracted state. It is nothing but a continuous contracted state of a muscle. So because of the high grade temperature, the actin and myosin filaments, they get glued and they will not perform their the excitation contraction coupling. That's why the muscle remains in a permanent state of contraction. That is called a rigor, and it is happening due to the high temperature. That's why it is called heat rigor. So it is a likely Viva OS question. So now you understood how to read this graph and how to justify this graph. Okay, we will move to the next graph. So this is another important graph. It is summation effects of two successive stimuli. So the first thing, why there is necessity of this graph? Why the summation effects is necessary, and what are the benefits of the successive stimuli? What is the benefit of summation? So you have learned the summation property in a nervous physiology. So before that, I would like to tell what is mean by summation. Yes, summation is nothing but addition. One is going to add to the another. If we add one to another, definitively it is a greater one. Then if this greater is beneficial or not, we will learn with the help of this graph. So summation, it is increase in the activity of a tissue produced by multiple stimulation as compared with the effect of a single stimulus. So what are the effects we are getting with a single threshold stimulus is always like lesser than what are the effects we are getting with the multiple stimulus at a time. So we will learn what could be the beneficial effects. Here how to read this graph. Here different points have shown from point A to point F. So point A is nothing but a simple muscle twitch which is showing point of stimulus, the latent period, upstroke, downstroke, and the physiological curve like contraction period and relaxation period. It is nothing but a simple switch with a single stimulus of threshold strength. Very next is the B point. Here, the first graph is showing the simple muscle twitch, but the second stimulus is applied when it is applied after the abolishing of the first stimuli. Okay, so that we are getting two different individual curves. Here two stimuli are applied, no doubt, but the point of second stimuli is just after the relaxation period of the first one. Because of that, we are getting the two component, but the second curve is bit higher. Can you see the amplitude of this curve is bit higher than the first one? Okay. So here you can say that the effect of the first strength is added here in the second one. Because of that, the second curve is having the higher height of this, means the strength of the curve is increased. So here you can tell that it can be a beneficial effect. Now the C point, here you can see the second stimulus is applied when during the first half of the relaxation period. Means the first point of stimuli, latent period, the upstroke, but the relaxation period is not completed. Okay, in between only the second point of stimulus is applied and the another graph is got, but this is called superimposition. This is called superimposition. The second stimuli is imposing over the first. Till the first stimuli is not completed its effect, the second one is applied, that's why it is superimposing. Next, the D point, here the second stimulus is applied during the contraction phase. Okay, so the graph is appearing as a wave summation. It is appearing as a wave summation. The point E, the second stimulus is applied during the second half of the latent period. Second half of the latent period. Here you can see we are getting one graph only, but that too with a higher curve, that too with a prominent curve. This curve is called summation of effects and this is the beneficial effect. What we need is this point E. This is the proper summation effect of the two stimuli. Means one is adding benefits to the another. And this last one is the second stimulus is applied during the first half. The second stimulus is applying during the first half. Means exactly where we are applying during the latent period. So do you think this second stimulus is beneficial? Here the second stimulus is not at all beneficial. Here the stimulus is applied where the muscle is inactive, where the muscle is preparing itself. So it is not showing any effect. So this is called the non-responsive curve, or it is called non-responsive stimulus, and the stimulus is applied where it is applied in a refractory period of a muscle where the muscle is inactive. So this is not a good example for a summation. So now you understood where if we apply the stimulus at what point, then only we get the summation or beneficial effect. Ek to after the relaxation period, that is point B, you can apply in a contraction, but the best is the second half of the latent period. So this is called the beneficial effect. So the reason behind it is the tension which is occur due to the second stimulus applied successively at a suitable interval, it may thus be considered greater than that from the first stimulus. So this entire phenomenon is called beneficial effect because the second stimulus gets benefited by the changes produced in the muscle due to the first stimulus. So second is getting benefited due to the changes happened during the first stimulus. So what could be the causes? What are the phenomena? When you are applying first time, so that is releasing the calcium. Okay. And again second time you are applying, again it is adding up the release of the calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So this can be a one reason. Additional calcium we are getting from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Second, due to the successive stimuli, the temperature of the muscle is increased, so the viscosity of the muscle is decreased. So muscle is active, fully active to perform its highest. Then, due to the successive stimuli, the effect is happening on inertia of the lever also. So inertia of the lever is getting decreased. So these all together, these are forming a summation effects due to the two successive stimuli. So you have learned what is the use of this summation effects of two successive stimuli. Here, the always stimuli, it should be given maximal stimulus. Never ever the supramaximal stimulus is given. Here, the threshold or the maximal stimulus is applied, not the supramaximal. Okay. Now moving towards the next graph, the last one. This is called the genesis of tetanus. How to read this graph, I will tell. But before that, see this graph carefully. You are seeing many important points. The one is trephe, second one is clonus, and the third one is tetanus. So you have to know these terms with its definition. If you are getting this graph, definitively they will ask the definition or the word meaning of these terms. They may ask you what is trephe, what is the clonus, what is the tetanus, and what are the reasons behind these to happen. Okay. So this graph, we will see one by one. What is the trephe? Are you seeing this graph? Here the trephe means they have shown some line, that is the increasing line. So what is the meaning? Trephe, it is nothing but a staircase or the increasing order. This trephe, it is the German derived word. So trephe word meaning is staircase. It's like a ladder. It is successively, the graph is increasing order. After that it is taking the same amplitude. Okay. So what is meant by trephe, we will read scientifically. Whenever a series of maximal stimulus are applied to a skeletal muscle at a particular frequency, so that this successive stimuli will be applying during the relaxation period of a previous stimuli. Okay. So this will cause increase in the tension developed during each twitch until after several contractions. Okay. So a uniform tension per contraction is reached. So this phenomenon is called trephe or staircase phenomenon. I will read it once again. Whenever a series of maximal stimuli are applied to a skeletal muscle at a particular frequency, so that the successive stimuli will apply in the relaxation phase of the previous stimuli, which will increase in the tension developed in a simple muscle twitch until after several contractions. So a uniform tension per contraction is reached. This phenomenon is called trepe or the staircase phenomenon. So here the contraction per tension per unit of this contraction is reached. So initially, unless and until it is reached, it is having a staircase phenomenon. Once it's reached, it will get the similar amplitude. So this type of property of the muscle is called trepe or a staircase. And what about the clonus and tetanus? I will read. So clonus, with the repeated maximal stimulation, if the frequency is such that successive stimuli falls during the mid-relaxation phase, it is happening during the mid-relaxation phase of the previous stimuli. So the muscle relaxes but not completely. So muscle is not allowed to relax completely. In between only the second successive stimuli is applied during the mid of relaxation. Because of that, the muscle will not relax completely and it will sustain as a clonus. So this property is called as clonus. So muscle, the successive second stimuli is applied during the mid relaxation phase of a this simple muscle twitch, where the muscle is not completely relaxed. So it is showing another peak. So that is called the clonus. And what about tetanus? Whenever we are giving the successive rapid stimuli during the contraction phase, the activation of contractile mechanism occurs repeatedly before relaxation has occurred, and an individual response is fused into one continuous contraction. Such response is called tetanus. So all the contractions, they are fused together, they are added together, and it is showing a single contraction state. It is showing a single contraction state. This type of tetanus, the muscle contraction is called tetanus, or it is also called as tetanic contraction. But the condition is we are applying the second stimuli, such repeated second stimuli during the contraction phase of the previous one. So because of that, the muscle always remaining in a contraction state. So all these contractions are fused together, they are mixed together to form a single contracted state. So that is called as tetanus. So these tetanus, it can be a two types, complete tetanus and incomplete tetanus. So what is meant by complete tetanus? When there is a no relaxation between the stimuli, it is called complete tetanus. And incomplete, when there are periods of incomplete relaxation between the summated stimuli, that is called incomplete. So here only, in this only the first initial part is showing the best example of incomplete tetanus, and the later part is showing the complete tetanus. Okay. So this is about the genesis of trepe, this clonus and the tetanus. So what is the physiological rate of nerve muscle stimuli during the voluntary muscle contraction and how it is maintained? So how we are applying this this graph to our human body. Whenever any nerve is stimulated, so its physiological rate is, during voluntary muscle contraction, it is almost 5 to 18 per second. So these tetanic contractions are usually achieved during severe isometric exercises. But it has a disadvantage. It causes the occlusion of the blood supply to the muscle, and here the speciality of the Renshaw cell is it keeps the stimulation rate maintained at a subtetanic level. So this is about the how this the voluntary muscle contraction rate is maintained. So you should also know that the terms like what is, and you should know the difference between the tetanus, what is meant by contracture, what is meant by rigor and rigor mortis. Okay. So tetanus you have learned. Whenever the muscle is, the second stimuli is applied during the contraction phase of the first stimuli, the muscle remains in a permanent state of contraction. This is called the tetanus. So what is meant by contracture? Contracture is nothing but a, here it is happened due to the contracted muscle. It fails to relax due to the ATP which is required for removal of calcium back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and but it is a reversible phenomenon. And what is meant by rigor and rigor mortis? When muscle fibers are completely depleted of ATP and phosphocreatinine, they develop a state of extreme rigidity. It is called rigor, and when this occurs after death, this is called rigor mortis. So after death, the ATP molecules are completely depleted and it is making the extreme state of the contraction of the muscle, that is called rigidity. So that term is called rigor mortis. Another question is, why cardiac muscle cannot be tetanized? It is a unique property of the cardiac muscle. So the answer for this is, in a cardiac muscle, the contractile response is more than half over during the absolute refractive period, that is almost 180 to 200 milliseconds. Hence, the summation of contractile response is not possible. That's why the cardiac muscle cannot be tetanized. So this is the justification of that answer. So how you will relate this experiment to the medical physiology? So this can be a likely question for you. How you will relate this experiment to the medical physiology? So points are like, muscular activity involved in a maintenance of posture and in many other motor function is due because of the tetanic type. So suppose if somebody is standing, the standing posture, sitting, everything is due to the partial state of contraction. It is due to the some kind of tetanic type. So that's why you can apply this to the human body. Next, the strength of muscular contraction can be graded in terms of alteration of the number of motor units. Here the property of motor units is important because altogether motor unit is formed by the muscle, spindle and its motor supply. So here the recruitment property is also applicable. After that, the symptoms of the diseases like tetanus, which is produced due to the anaerobic bacteria, and tetany have much in common with the physiological tetanus. So you should know what is mean by tetanus and tetany. These are the terms which with the common physiological aspects. So tetanus you have learned, it is due to the repeated stimuli during the contraction phase. And what is tetany? Tetany is nothing but due to the lack of the ionized calcium, which is causing neuromuscular hyperexcitability. Because of this, the person may get the cramps in extremities due to the extensive spasm of the skeletal muscle. So this is the difference between tetany and tetanus. So these are few questions they can ask on this graph. So we have seen these 4 graphs. So I explained you how to read this graph and how to explain this graph. So tomorrow I will be telling you remaining 4 graphs. So any doubt you can ask me or you can text me. Have you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you will be coming back, I will be showing the setup of this experiment. So you can see it and you can like that can be easily understandable for you. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
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 Thank you. Stay safe at home. Off money. Leave.
Excuse me, ma'am.